there is such a phobia of like speaking about pain and hurt and like coming off like a victim, or not wanting to talk about things that you don't want to amplify and create more of. And all that really does is like set up a pattern of avoidance. And when we when we try to run away from something, like it just like it's just not possible. So the only way to heal shame, as Matt Kahn went on to talk about in his session the other night, was like shame is an ascended master dressed up as pain and suffering. And shame serves to be an immovable object whose function is to break down the spiritual ego. Because no spiritual practice on earth can heal that sense of being wounded, other than basically how he put it is like admitting what hurts, like telling the truth about, I was hurt like this. This is who hurt me. If you know, if you don't, doesn't, I mean, you can say you don't know, but you still have the giving a voice to that inner hurt that is powerful. Because at its heart, the sensation of shame comes from, on one side, a powerful desire to be seen and heard. And that really never goes away, except when we're wounded, when our feelings are hurt, when people don't receive us in a loving way. And then we remember that, okay, well, when I do this, then they hurt me. Like as you rack up those wounds, like death by 1,000 cuts kind of thing, like all those little things pile up on this other side of feeling unworthy of being seen and heard. And so when we avoid our pain, there's a level of self-rejection that's going on that I think can end up keeping you stuck if you listen only to like Abraham Hicks is the teacher that found me in my darkest time and led me out of the darkness of the forest of doom or whatever, like gave me so much. And at the same time, like I think there's people that you hear in her recordings where they're like, I've been listening for 20 years and like I just can't get this. And I think there is a time and a place and a level of intimacy between people that gets created when you're willing to voice what hurt you, when you're strong enough to put your weaknesses on the outside. And that's not something that you show to just anybody. Like that is not at all what I'm saying. Like I'm not advocating full transparency like every day, all day long. But like one of the cards that I've been drawing a lot lately is the 3 of Pentacles. And that to me is all about community and all about like what's possible between even a couple people that is not possible when you're by yourself. Like there is a synergistic effect because when you put this person plus this person, the relationship between the two is number 3. So that you create something that like wasn't there before. And this is such a time of putting ourselves out there in spaces where we feel safe enough to even just 1% more like put ourselves out there and allow ourselves to express possibly like the things that have hurt us the most, if any of that is still in there, which in my case, like as he's rattling off all the things that hurt us as humans, like being lied to or used or betrayed, or you've lost something that really mattered to you, or there's so many different ways that we can rack up these little hurts that if those aren't being processed, it's just a giant unending pile. There's no top end to what that accrual can look like, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. And that, as he said, like, there's a kind of a mantra in the new age, like spiritual community that's evolved over the last like however couple decades or whatever, like as it's become more mainstream, about a lot of talk about victimhood and like not being a victim and like don't you dare come off like a victim or whatever. And he defines victim as suffering in silence, not feeling worthy enough to get to heal your own pain, to get to heal your own story. Victims don't talk about their pain. So the second that you're in a space of acknowledging that this hurts, that I'm hurting, I'm sad, I'm feeling guilty, I'm feeling unsure, I'm feeling insecure, I'm feel like there's an acknowledgement piece that I think that's the piece that can be missing when you do get into an area like toxic positivity, where it's all about like flip the thought to positive, just skip straight to the positive. And there's like truly an inner child inside of you that was the one who was hurt, and like still to this day like never got to tell that story, like never got to like have her day in court. Like whether you end up getting to tell the person who hurt you or just say it out loud in an empty room, the willingness to give the microphone over to the part that maybe still is hurting, that takes so much worthiness. Like telling your story of your pain and even talking out loud about what you're still actively working on healing. Like I've heard, I think this was in an Elizabeth Gilbert interview too, where she said like one of the most generous things a human can do for humanity is to learn in public, because so many people are running around pretending like they got it all figured out, and basically nobody does. And so like the people who are willing to like stand up and say like this is still what I'm working on, like I'm not perfect yet, I made this mistake and I really don't know what the answer is, or like I still struggle with this and it overpowers me sometimes, like there is so much worthiness in that. Like so much like so much love for yourself to be able to say like this person hurt me, that hurt my feelings. Pretending to be tough, those are the victims. Pretending to be perfect, they are the victims. Like owning your story out loud, even the parts where like, yeah, that was a dark chapter. Like learning to tell that story with love for the whole entire narrative, like that, there's no victimhood about any of that. So I was really, really happy to receive that piece from him, because again, I think it's easy to get down on like victimhood or when people share their pain with us, because so like another thing that's kind of rampant in our society is this sense of like fixing it. Like how are you going to fix that? Like what's the solution? You know, there's a problem, I got to solve it. And that piece of like when you sense that somebody is in pain or is suffering and you don't know how to fix it, like basically like he says, he's like, just because somebody cannot hear about your pain because of the pain that it brings up in them, that maybe in this moment of their life they would rather avoid that pain than to face it and process it and heal it. And that's why you would call somebody else a victim, because like you're not ready to be done with your internal silent suffering where you haven't yet admitted that there are wounds left to heal. And that again is so powerful, because I know like there have been people in my past where I have a hard time being around them, where I'm like, they're too negative or whatever, they drag me down. And it's like the only reason that can happen is because I'm trying to like get involved and fix whatever it is that I'm sensing is going wrong for them. And that's like kind of going back to the conversations with my God that I've been having. There is another common theme that I'm noticing, because if I ask God something, pretty much as when I ask my God something, like I want to make that crystal clear that that's what I'm talking about. My God, my personal higher power. When I ask my God something like, "What do you think about this? What should I do about this? Like, what is the truth between this?" The only thing, it's almost frustrating, but like in a loving way. The only thing God has when I ask a question is a question back to me. That's like, so when I say like this was a good one where I said like, will you please help this person who is struggling, who like can't see the good in themselves? And it was somebody else, it wasn't me. And like, can you help them? And God said, I mean, I could, but why do you think that they need help? I said, because they're suffering. Like, shouldn't they be happy? Shouldn't they like, feel better? And God asked me again, like, why do you think they should be different than they are? Like, where is that coming from? Where you've decided that being in suffering is somehow less than being happy? Like, definitely helping. I mean, I don't know. I could be talking to my own imagination. I don't think it really matters. But this particular dialogue has really helped me to see how truly conditional I really am, and how like I'm doing it to myself most of all. But because I'm doing it to myself, because I'm being conditional with myself and like always pushing myself to be more and do more and be better and do better and more and more and more, like there's nothing wrong with wanting expansion, but there's like I've drawn the devil card a lot lately, and it's like, yeah, like that self-expectation that you're a slave to your own self-expectation, that like you do have to get better. And when you don't feel good, you do need to feel better. You need to get healthy. You need to be taking like awesome care of yourself. Like you need to be doing all these things. And God keeps asking me, why do you think that? Where did you get that you need to do anything? Who told you this? Where does that come from? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. But I see what you mean. Like, where do those ideas come from? Those pressures, those self-expectations that we put on ourselves, where do those come from? Why do we think we need to do anything? Why do we think we need to be anything different than where we are? Like, that's been something else I've kind of been thinking about, is the sensation of feeling stuck. Like, that's another one that I'm like, how do you, like asking God, like, how do you get unstuck? And God's pretty much like, why do you think you are? Like, why do you think that you should be somewhere different than where you are right now? What's wrong with where you are? Like, let's dig into that. Like, why do you feel like you need to be somewhere different? And so, yeah, these questions back and forth have been so helpful to let me see like truly the most powerful thing you ever contribute is simply by showing up and like putting your presence in that space. And that means that it doesn't matter what you're wearing. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter how anybody takes what you say. It doesn't matter what you do. Being in the space, you have met every checklist that ever was. And even then, picking out which spaces to be in, like that is part of the great joy and delight of getting to be in this paradise that is this earth. Like getting to choose which spaces feel like greater freedom, which spaces feel like greater relaxation,